and top of the day to you all. Thank you for joining me for another brief video for this channel. I'm sitting in front of the National Archives of the United Kingdom in Kew. The building may not be very inspiring, but the contents of it most certainly are. It is a wonderful research institution in which you have access to incredible treasure trove of information, data, of correspondence. Basically everything that created the modern world is in one way or another represented in the British National Archives. This used to be known as the Public Record Office until not too long ago, but in the modern passion for changing everything for the sake of change, it was renamed to the National Archives. I suppose it does make a certain amount of sense. Most of the most important documents that are of interest to naval and maritime historians, ship modelers, just plain old enthusiasts, professional historians, etc., are held in the building behind me. Another depository, of course, is at the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, which nowadays is the Royal Maritime Museum. But even so, this probably is the most valuable, the most interesting, and certainly the richest depository of documents. The sort of documents that you can find here, if you're interested in maritime affairs, start with the state papers and the entire correspondence of all the figures that had anything to do with the Navy, with running the country, and for a significant portion of the early modern period, really, not only the country, but almost the whole world. All of this is held here. It can be found either in the state papers, in the colonial state papers, or other depositories that are particularly interesting for us naval folks are, of course, the Admiralty Papers. They fall into different groups, from correspondence between commanders-in-chief and stations and the home government, the Admiralty itself, or the Navy Board, quite frequently, going down to logbooks of ships, contracts for construction of ships, states of the Navy, states of the dockyards, supplies. It runs the whole gamut. They are truly wonderful treasure troves. At the moment I am here, and I'm really grateful for the sort of job that I have that allows me, not only allows me, requires me to be in such places of happy thoughts for me. But returning to the subject, what I was going to say is that what has brought me here at the moment are two sets of specific documents. The one are documents connected with the 70-gun ship of the line Burford. It was built in 1722 in accordance with the 1719 establishment, and is probably best known for the action at Portobello, where it bore the flag of Admiral Edward Vernon. It is an interesting story, fascinating story, and no doubt in another video we can delve a little bit more about that action, into that action. But what started my interest is that the Mystic Seaport Museum holds an incredible model, contemporary 18th century model of the Burford. So curiosity got the better of me, and I started digging to see what is out there. And sure enough, there are logbooks from the campaign of the War of Austrian Succession, otherwise known in North America as King George's War. But among the treasures that I found were the captain's logs books. They are not a full set, not all survive there, but they are also the master's logs from this period. And they, in many ways, are far more valuable than the captain's, because the captain's logs are derivatives of the master's logs. So they do contain far more information of, I would say, greater detail, including navigational notes, including calculations for positioning. Sometimes truly interesting things can be found sketched by the masters, the so-called standing officers of the ship. Other groups of documents that I had the pleasure of looking into were the logbook of Admiral Vernon himself, the Admiral's logs, Another set were the letter book of one of the captains, one of the vessels in the squadron, which lists in great detail and description the signals that Vernon intended to use in action. This is just giving you a brief overview of what is out there and what I've been looking at. Hopefully, maybe, perhaps this will produce one day a publication. Another group of documents that I'm looking at here are connected with the Anglo-Dutch War in the Caribbean region, and more specifically the Second Anglo-Dutch and the Third Anglo-Dutch Wars. Because during these two conflicts, the English, and yes, in this period it is the English, not the British, Navy, captured the island of Tobago from the Dutch. And my interest in the island starts from the fact that my colleagues and I excavated a test trench across a 17th century Dutch warship sunk in Tobago. And so, as part of the research into the publication of the site, I would like to expand a little bit more into the history of naval warfare around the island. So, without further ado, that is where I shall head in the next moment or so, as the archives are about to open. I mentioned already that this is my truly happy place. Rumor has it that the great Swedish maritime historian Jan Glete most famously left his own wedding feast to go back to the archives, because he knew that there are 2 more hours in which the archives are open that day. So why waste them on a feast when you can simply delve into the joys of archival research? Now that is something to aim for. I have to admit that, though I don't consider myself a coward, I cower at the very thought of having left my wedding feast to hide into archives. Obviously I didn't do it, otherwise I'm unlikely to have been alive and talking to you at the moment. So thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and let me know what you liked and what else you would like to hear and see on this channel. For now, however, 350-year-old papers are calling my name, and I have to answer the call. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.